Hey everybody, Kim here with Little Biz Resources, and I am just double checking that we are live and there is sound. I should turn that off while I'm doing that. Do I have sound? Hey everybody, Kim here with... Yep, I have sound. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick for those of you who are interested in this topic. This is PayPal and Stripe alternatives. Now, this is more focused on e-commerce, though you can add this to other stuff as well, and I'll show you why it's more focused towards e-commerce. But this is a great way to save money, right? To save money over time, especially as you do larger and larger amounts. So let's look at some alternatives in PayPal and Stripe itself and dive into this a little bit so you can understand more about your payment options. All right, so what do you need to accept payments for e-commerce? To accept credit cards and other solutions like eCheck, and I only put that one in there because that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that wasn't a credit card, but there are other options as well. You need a payment processor, right? And that's specifically credit cards and usually eCheck. So a payment processor is the one that accepts that. However, to use a payment processor on your website, you need a payment gateway, okay? And this is where I said it's more e-commerce oriented because a payment gateway connects your payment processor to your website so you can collect payments on there, right? Places like PayPal and Stripe, those are payment processors, and they typically already have built and agreed to have their payment gateways pre-installed. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense right there because that's kind of an important part to understand before we go forward. You need to have two elements if you're e-commerce. Now, let's say that you're running services. And if you're like a service-based business and you're like, hey, I don't have a website where I process payments, you can get a payment processor and, connect it through QuickBooks and QuickBooks has payment processors they partner with. You can, use any type of invoicing service and collect the information. And just depending on the payment processor, sometimes they have that already built in and sometimes you just manually type in the credit card, right? Just depends on a lot of different variables there. So, but payment processors are the ones that actually do the credit card processing or the e-check processing. So, and that's, I think, usually ACH. So in case you need those terms. Now, payment gateways are the ones that go on your website. Okay. And so PayPal and Stripe are already payment processors and they provide the gateways already built in. So, for example, you're going to have different payment options depending on your website platform. WooCommerce, which already has both options for Stripe and PayPal built in, right? They already have payment gateways built in for those. So they also have WooCommerce payments, right? They have tons and tons and tons of different kinds of integrations. I recommend if you're using WooCommerce to check out just type in WooCommerce payment options or something like that, or go to the WooCommerce site and check their payments in all of them because they have a ton of them available. Now Groove, for those of you, we know we do a lot of Groove stuff here, so I want to talk about that one. They have Groove Pay, they have Authorize.net, and then NMI. And I honestly don't know what NMI is. I had to look it up and I'm still confused. So Authorize.net though used to be only a gateway and now they have a full service solution, which we're going to talk about. Now, Shopify has, of course, PayPal and Stripe. Well, they don't have Stripe because the Shopify payments is a Stripe solution. So they have PayPal integrated already, and then they are, their Shopify payments is from Stripe. Then they also have Amazon Pay, which, of course, you could put that on WooCommerce as well. And then they have Authorize.net, and then they also have tons of other solutions. I mean, there were so many of them. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so if you're doing Shopify and you're outside the US, they have a ton of them that you can integrate with that are, other ones, right? Same thing with WooCommerce. And then, of course, there are other platforms. There's like Wix and Squarespace and everything. Just look up the ones that they have. I don't use those, so I don't know everything that they offer, but I'm sure they have different integrations now. Now, sometimes people have problems with PayPal or Stripe, and if you're one of those, rest assured you are not alone. I'm not saying I'm one of those. I'm just saying there are lots of people that are one of those. Now, PayPal has plenty of issues that people report. I mean, there have been massive amounts of people that say their PayPal accounts have been shut down and their money held for 180 days. I don't understand how it's legal, but it happens. So that's something that you have to be concerned about, right? Probably not put all your eggs in one basket for PayPal. But in e-commerce specifically, they don't like drop shipping. And so if they find out that you have a drop shipping company, they frequently increase the amount that they hold and for the length of time that they hold it, or they just close accounts. Now, this isn't for all drop shipping. I'm just saying that sometimes drop shipping is one of those triggers. They don't like a lot of things, so you just kind of have to go with the flow on them. And sometimes get your account closed because there's nothing you can do about it. Now, Stripe is usually fine for small sales. So once you hit something like $10,000, that's when they start to, and that number is an approximation. I've heard some people say it's $2,000 and some people say it's higher than $10,000. So it does seem to vary. It might depend on the country you're in. It might depend on the type of stuff you're selling. It might depend on who's board in the Stripe place. I don't know. But they do eventually analyze an account. And if it isn't to their liking, they will suspend and or shut down accounts. And the one thing is you really don't want to get shut down by a payment processor. And that's because if you do, it makes it a little bit harder to get another one later. Okay. Now that's getting less and less as a problem. It used to be that they all knew each other and once you're on a blacklist, you're on a blacklist. But now it's not as bad, but still kind of a, mark against you. So not all payment gateways and payment processors are available in all countries either, right? So I know there's some countries that, even though PayPal is just about everywhere, that PayPal's not in. Same thing with Stripe. And so there's other ones like, I just saw those World something and To Checkout, and there's a lot of them that go other places as well. So you need to find out which one of those go with your particular hosting. And that's part of the problem with running this, right? Saying, okay, well, here are the 5 solutions that you need for WooCommerce. No, there's like 150. And the one that works for you is going to be dependent upon your country. It's going to be dependent upon a bunch of things. So we're going to keep this simple and assume US, by the way. And we're looking at payment processing rates. So PayPal jumped their rates, which we talked about, to 3.49% and 49 cents per transaction. Again, that's in the US. Stripe is at 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. Shopify, their lowest if you're on the highest plan, so you're paying monthly to get that, is 2.4% and 30 cents per transaction, but their lowest plan is 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. So again, that matches Stripe since that's what it is. And then GroovePay they mentioned that theirs is as low as, and I put that as low as so you're aware that there are probably different rates like Shopify has, but they have theirs as low as 2.85% and 25 cents per transaction. I believe, and don't quote me on this because it's not there right now, but if you have a free Groove account, your transaction is higher than if you have a paid Groove account. So unfortunately, the comparison is not there to check, but I'm sure it will eventually be there. And that's something you can always ask if you're interested in Groove. Now, Authorize.net it's one of those that I mentioned that it can now process its own payments and everything. And it's $25 a month for the gateway. So like GroovePay, you can't use GroovePay on, well, I don't know, you might be able to on Shopify now, but you can't use it on WooCommerce that I can find so far. And if you do, you probably have to run it through a gateway. And that gateway would still have a monthly cost. So keeping that in mind that you may have gateway costs as well, depending on what you choose to do. But they have a 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. Amazon Pay, 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. So WooCommerce already has Amazon Pay built into their payments, right? I believe. So if that's the case, and you're like, hey, I want to use Amazon Pay, you could just use WooCommerce payments. And I couldn't find their pricing. There was kind of a nightmare. So it probably depends on what you accept. Now, with that in mind, you say, well, Kim, when should I switch to a different payment processor? Now, the first consideration, when the math makes sense, and we're going to look at some of the math. The second consideration, when your customers are willing to use your payment processor. Okay, that's important because if your customers aren't willing to use it, like, for example, some customers are completely loyal to PayPal and they'll only use PayPal and they won't buy from you if you don't have PayPal. Then you want to think about going, well, maybe I want to keep PayPal and split it up or something. Now, I will tell you that in Groove, at least in the paid version, they have, and I haven't played with this a lot, we'll have to explore it, but they have options that when you're in their Groove Sell part, Sell, S-E-L-L, Groove Sell, that you can say, oh, okay, I want so many transactions to go through this processor, so many through this processor, so many through this processor. So if you're going to run 50,000 transactions and you want to make sure your money doesn't get tied up into one payment processor. And this is what the big dogs do, right? This is what they do. They don't sit there and have one payment processor. They do day one. If they don't have something that splits it up like Groove does, they'll do day one. They have one payment processor. Day two, they have another payment processor. Day three, they have another payment processor, or they go through somewhere that won't hold their money, like ClickBank as an example, right? So ClickBank is another one which we need to explore more that can do a payment processing. But we actually have a secret one for you, for those of you at least who do, Shopify or WooCommerce, and one that would accept it. So let's look at some examples so you can do some math, right? And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say we do $500 per month in sales at 20 transactions. Those are literally arbitrary because I clearly don't know what you sell and what your business is. Now, PayPal is at 3.49% and 49 cents per transaction. So $500 at the 3.49% equals $17.45. 20 transactions, you get the 49 cents per transaction, right? And that's the part I wanted you guys to see on that, is that $9.80. So now we've got $17.45 and $9.80 equals $27.25. I'm not going to do the math on the others. There's all of the options at this level are nominal, right? You're looking at maybe $1 or $2 difference. It doesn't make it a huge difference to change. But let's look at what happens when we jump to $1,500 per month in sales and 50 transactions. Okay, now that's not unrealistic. That's $1,500 per month in sales and 50 transactions is $30 on average per transaction. I sell ornament sets for $20. So my transactions could easily be higher at $1,500. But we're going to use this number for comparison. So at PayPal, 3.49% and 49 cents per transaction, we're looking at a total of $76.85. And then Groove, we're looking at $55.25. Still at $1,500 per month in sales and 50 transactions. That's not a huge enough gap to like upend my entire business and try to do something different, right? But now multiply that by 10. Now you're looking at $768.50 for PayPal versus $552.50 for Groove. And you start to see where you can save some money, especially if you're doing that every single month. Now, you may still say, hey, look, the $200 and something per month isn't worth it to me for that particular one. But I'll tell you what, we are using one, and I didn't put this one up, which we'll talk about in a second. And actually, let's go to that. I think that's what we're talking about, right? So here's our secret. So we're using one, and you notice I didn't put it up there, so you have to listen to me, right? Or watch the subtitle things. Hopefully it's accurate. We are using Elevon. And you're like, what is Elevon? Well, if you are a Costco member, specifically the higher tier level, you can sign up for Elevon. And sorry, I was trying to look up Groove, obviously. So we're going to go to Elevon real quick so you can see what it's called. And this is a payment processor. So they're the ones that accept the credit cards. And it always takes me a while to find this. No, industries. Solutions. So this is what I want. Payments online. And then they have payment gateways as well. But yeah, if you guys decide to do Elevon and you need help, you need to let me know because it took us a while to figure this out. But they have e-commerce here, right? So they have in-app payments and digital wallets. But we're going to look at e-commerce because that's what we're focused on. And it didn't take me anywhere. So this is the same page. And let's see here. They do not have it listed. I believe it's less than 2%. Okay, so let's just round up to 2% because it is less than 2%. And it's 25 cents per transaction. You cannot seem to avoid that. So let's do that $15,000. And while we're doing that, let's go back here. So let's do this $15,000 and we're going to times it by 0.02. Okay, so that's $300. And then we said 50 times 25 cents is still right here. So $12. So it's going to be $312.50. Now, if you have Groove, you may not say, hey, that's a big difference. But if you're here at 768.50 minus 312.50, that's almost, that's $456 a month that you could save by switching to that. Now, I will say we also pay some monthly fees, but it's like, I think you have a minimum of $20 that you have to do. So if you're not quite at this level, then you'll be paying out $20 a month to be able to have that luxury. But we figured out that all we had to do was 10 or 15 transactions a month, and we were going to save money from PayPal. And that's what you have to figure out for you is what is your average transaction price? What is the percentage you're currently paying? And then if you want to go to something like Elavon, if you have Costco, then if you have a Costco membership, then you can go into their payment processing. You just go to Costco and look at it and it'll walk you through everything. So that is something that I thought I'd share with you, because as you get higher and higher in sales, you save more and more money when you have a lower percentage for your payment processor. Now the gateway for Elavon, the one we had to use, is like $79 a year. I want to tell you guys a secret too, for those who make it this far. Come back here for a second. I did not pay $79, and I will eventually, because I wanted to automatically update and everything, but since it hadn't updated in so long, I went to plugintheme.net. Now, plugintheme.net, I'm not associated with them. I don't have an affiliate link. I'm just telling you about them in case you're interested. You can get some different plugins, WordPress plugins in here. So what I did was I looked, and they happened to have the only one that I could get to work with Elavon. So this is the one I recommend if you use Elavon. WooCommerce Elavon Converge Payment Gateway. Look at that, $4.49. Now the problem with these, they're excellent, right? These are excellent plugins. They're the real thing and everything, but you cannot, it will not auto update, right? So this one, look at product last updated 3/12/2021. I don't think I need to worry about auto updating this one for a little bit, right? But this is really good to get started, so you don't have to pay that $79 a year up front. You can get started with $4.49, and then when you're making enough money that you're like, hey, I don't mind forking out the extra money. This is a one-time payment, right? So you just come back in here. Once you've purchased, you go into your account and you can download the update. I do this for several plugins right now because I just don't have $500 to drop on plugins before I'm making money on my site, right? So that's kind of the tip of the night for those who decided to watch all the way through. You now know the secret to saving tons of money as you increase your sales. So I'm actually going to pull up the Facebook group real quick. I don't think there's been any questions or any activity at all in Facebook. So let's look in here. Right, I posted in here. This is the one I did earlier this week about when I followed Jeremy Renner's Instagram. I'm going to be honest, I was kind of trying to cheat on that and see if I can get a boost in traffic because I talked about Jeremy Renner. It didn't work, for the record. I am stuck on that YouTube channel. I am stuck to search terms, and nobody's going to search, how do I protect my social media account from Jeremy Renner? No, wait, that's not what you would write. No, I love Jeremy Renner. He's awesome. But I did want to test and see what that was. Plus, it was a really good opportunity to talk about protecting your social media accounts, which is what the real topic is about. It happened to happen after I followed Jeremy Renner. So, and then we have, if you missed last week's, it was the Google My Business Quick Setup and Essentials. Of course, these are on the YouTube channel as well. And no questions. This is one from Marjorie last couple weeks, well, February 11th. The e-commerce training is there. It's for those who are interested. There's like 2 videos so far, and it is merchletuniversity.com. That's how you sign up. Go to merchletuniversity.com. Now I'm going to tell you, if you've made it this far and you're interested in Merchlet, you need to understand that we are only going to allow a select number of people onto the Merchlet marketplace. Wow. This is the marketplace. Here's ours. We're still adding stuff here, as you can tell. It takes a lot longer than I like, but you know what? It takes just as long on Etsy. It's just, we get to cheat a little bit on Etsy because you can't do SEO stuff on Etsy. It's all internal, so you're not really optimizing for Google, and we're trying to optimize for Google as well here and help you branch out to other places. So we've applied to Pinterest already. I get to go put in a new social thing. We've applied to Pinterest for merchant status, and we're just waiting for feedback from them to see if we can get in. And if we do, then you'll have product pins on Pinterest, and we have amazing training for that coming up too. So this is kind of just the update real quick on Merchlet, but if by the end of the month, we're going to be closing it. So you either need to sign up at Merchlet University or at merchlet.com. Either way, that'll lock you in. And at the end of the month, or when we hit about 30 people, we're going to close it. And that's only because there's a lot of work that goes into training people on this. And it's just new, and that's what it is. And so we want only people who are dedicated and people who are willing to work and people that are willing to get on there and do stuff. And yes, it will remain well, basically free for those who get in now. And then if we open it for subscriptions later, we're talking about not doing that. We're talking about actually only allowing it to people who have gone through a specific training, which we will charge for later. So I'm going to keep building the training now, of course, but there's just a little bit of training on Merchant University. So just sit tight. I've got more coming out this weekend. I had a bunch of personal stuff this week. I found out that I'm a medical anomaly. That's always good times. So, all right, I don't see any questions. And I've rambled for quite a while now. So I think it says we're at 20 minutes. So I don't see any questions. Don't see any questions in here other than the one I answered. And by the way, thanks for subscribing if you're on this channel, because you helped me hit 100 subscribers and I got to personalize my channel. I know people don't care about that, but it is so cool. So real quick, let me show you. You go to youtube.com/c/littlebizresources and you go straight to the channel. I love that. That's one of my favorite things. And I'm like, oh, I know I don't get a lot of subscribers, but I'm so happy for the 110 I have. So if you're on there, thank you very much. All right, I'm going to call that the end.